So last time we had a guy dealing with a penny pinching company. Now we'll see how it ends. If you're starting here, then I highly suggest that you go back to the first one because it's a fun ride. No more delays, let's get cracking. Long epilogue. Not too long after this all started, I was in my boss's office at one point, and there was another department head in there, which at first didn't seem at all suspicious, but this other department head said he has an opening and he wants me to apply for it. A possible promotion? My boss is singing my praises and says all the regular catchphrases like, great opportunity for you, and sure would hate to lose you, but, and all that. I get it. It's not lost on me that my boss thinks he can get rid of me by having me promoted into another department. He even wrote a recommendation about me to the big boss and helped me get selected as the WorkWise Employee of the Month, which was a monthly thing for safety-conscious employees. When I was selected, I got a certificate and a reserved parking spot for a month. So I applied for that other position. This other department head even reviews my application with me and helps me update my resume. So when the big boss does the interviews, I end up getting the job. The other helpful factor was that I only had a high school diploma and they normally wanted someone with a degree, which would seem like a liability, but because of how cheap this company was, they saw this as an opportunity. He doesn't have a degree, so we'll lowball him and he'll take it. Ha ha ha! And that's exactly what they did. And they were right. The department head told me how much the position was supposed to pay, and the big boss offered me $2,000 below that, which was still a huge pay increase for me because of how little I was paid already. I took the job. It was a piece of cake. It was a Monday through Friday job. It was salaried. I no longer worked weekends. I no longer worked overtime. I no longer worked 4 a.m. to noon. After I took the job, I would run into my boss from time to time, and he had this attitude like he was happy for having gotten rid of me. I don't think he knew I got a raise, or if he did, that didn't seem to bother him. He was rid of me, and he was happy about that. In my new job, I was an instructor. I was all of 23 years old and mostly unqualified. I had to apply to something called a deficiency program to meet the state's requirement to do it. I had 2 sessions per day, 5 days per week. The company got paid for each person I trained in each session. From what I understand, this was decent money. I would typically have 20 students in each session. If the company was paid $50 per student, I'm guessing it was around that amount, that would be about $1,000 for each session, or $2,000 per day they were making. Not bad for the company and good for me because the position was hard to fill at what they're willing to pay, and I was below that. So everybody was a winner, except my part-time job, but that was okay. The position had even gone vacant for over a year before they asked me to fill it. Not long after I started, the department head who brought me on left and was replaced by another department head. This was a woman who everyone had already known about, and she was known for being a real who didn't take any and was, at least supposedly, hard to get along with and hard to work for. I figured I wouldn't last too long with this new boss if the rumors were true, and right off, she was butting heads with several of her employees because, like any new boss, she made the changes she thought needed to be made. I didn't have any problems with her, and I tried not to give her any reason to have a problem with me. One time, I get called into her office, and I'm wondering what it's about. She tells me how she got a call from HR about me, and we needed to do some things, and fast. Not long before this, there had been kind of a big story in the news about a nearby city where the police and fire departments, not at all related to our work, had to pay out retirees some huge amounts of money for vacation and holidays they'd been banking over the years. The punchline to the news story was how some fire chief had over a year of vacation saved up, some of it dating back to when he was a rookie. Now, the city had to pay him his current wage for a benefit that was only a few bucks when it was earned, but now was worth a whole lot more. The boss lady tells me how the HR lady was the same lady who could control the office supplies, is concerned that this was what I was trying to do. Save up vacation time and holiday time that I earned at a low rate and then cash it out years later at a much higher rate. The idea never crossed my mind. For one thing, I didn't plan to stick around that long. Then I got to thinking about it. In my old position, they didn't like to let me take vacation and kept me from taking holidays. My request never even made it to HR or payroll or anywhere else, so it looked like I just didn't like taking vacation because my previous boss wouldn't even process my request. By this time, I had banked 3 weeks of vacation and about as much in holidays, so about 6 weeks at the time, all earned at my previous rate, but that I would get to take at my new, higher rate. So the boss lady tells me that she needs me to come up with a plan for how I intend to get rid of my vacation/holiday time in a reasonable manner. I came up with a plan where I would take every Friday off for the next however many weeks it took to get it down to whatever was acceptable to her in HR or whoever. When I told her of my plan, she laughed and said something like, "I guess you just want to work part-time from now on, don't you?" When I smiled, she tells me, "Wow, I didn't think you had teeth." I told her I didn't know what she meant, so she told me she had never seen me smile before, which made me realize I was way too serious around her, expecting her to be too serious, and that those rumors about her were unfounded. She was just a no kind of person. Before I ran out of vacation and holiday time, I decided I was going to quit that job to go do something else. I still had something like 3 weeks worth of time off to use up, so I figured, based on company policy, that I would just put in my notice, continue to work, and then get a fat check at the end of it all, like a severance. My boss was always straight with me, so I told her my plan, even though I knew this might put me in jeopardy of being told my services were no longer needed, and I'd be out of a job earlier than I planned. The boss lady told me she appreciated me telling her, partly because of how difficult it would be to find someone qualified, cheap enough, to replace me. When I put in my official notice, I got called down to HR again. The HR lady acted like she always did, like I was trying to get one over on everyone. She tells me there's no way I'm working up until the last day of my employment because that would mean the company would have to pay my salary for that time and pay me out for my vacation/holiday time. She tells me instead, what they're going to do is have me work every day up until I hit the point where I have equal number of vacation days and work days left, and then I was just going to go on vacation until my final day. That way, they don't have to pay me out when I leave. I point out to her that this means that I would be leaving 3 weeks early, and if they didn't replace me, that means the company would lose the revenues they would have generated by having me continue to work. And those revenues would more than offset the amount that they were paying me, probably by a 10-to-1 margin. She's not buying it. She tells me if I don't like it, I can go and talk to the big boss. I give it some thought and I realize I can either take it her way and get 3 weeks off and quit working in this job 3 weeks early, or I could go try to convince the big boss that I could do better to make the company a whole lot of money. The deciding factor was realizing that all I would be doing was helping someone who had me out of $2K because he knew I had no bargaining power in his contract of adhesion. So I said, let's do it your way. She tells me I have to withdraw my form and submit a new one saying I'm requesting to take vacation during that time. I tell her no. She asks me why not. I tell her it's because I've made my request and I'm not going to do her job for her. If she rejects my request, there's the form. She can write it on there that she's rejecting it and put down what she wants her official response to be. This makes her mad, but it makes me happy. I really didn't care. I would have written the request, but I was annoyed by it all. I did the rough math on some of this. This was a company that refused to supply basic things like pens and paper and didn't want me to get even $2 in overtime. They didn't want me to get any vacation or holidays and made me bank them. Then they decided, hey, wait a minute, I think this guy is trying to us. So they were forcing me to take my built-up balance of vacation/holiday time. But at the same time, every day I took off meant a loss of revenues at least $2,000, which was way far in excess of anything I could ever make in wages at this place. Then, when I said I would just continue to work and earn the money, but that they would have to pay me for my vacation time, they shot themselves in the foot by telling me I had to quit working earlier and take my vacation at the end of my employment, rather than working till the end and cash out. Between lost inventory, additional wages, and lost revenues, their penny pinching must have cost them $60,000 just in trying to keep me from earning money. Too long didn't read. Company has a strict no overtime without 48-hour notice policy. Boss gets mad that I break the rule out of necessity. Ends up costing tons of money because I start to follow the rules. Anytime they ask me to work overtime, I refuse because not 48 hours, malicious compliance. To get rid of me, they move me to another department with more pay, then force me to take vacation I saved up at a higher rate of pay when I earned it. In the new position, every time I take a day off, it costs the company more than $2,000 in revenue. So after all of that, what do you all think? Why do companies like that exist? Why are they so worried about employees getting a good deal when they make so much money off of them? Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm always watching. Also, since you made it through 2 of these, please leave a like and let me know that you want more videos like this. And if you haven't already, subscribe and ding that notification bell to be the first one to know when new videos come out. As always, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.